use and use energy is an important role that we have in the whole region. But we are just at the beginning of this journey, and the road ahead will be challenging as we endeavor to meet ambitious commitments to decarbonize our economies and curb carbon emissions. At this ministerial meeting, the IDB fostered a regional policy dialogue in two side events. The first, outlining sustainable energy paths for Latin America and the Caribbean. We discussed the potential for the region to adopt more renewable energy investments. We also have another event in electromobility. This session was to discuss the fact that the electrification of transport represents a special opportunity for Latin America and for the Caribbean. We see Latin America and the Caribbean becoming a world leader on electromobility. This is already happening thanks to bold policy measures in many countries in our region. At the bank, we now have 15 country clients engaged in electromobility, and we will continue to work with them to find the most appropriate regulatory, financing, and technical solutions to identify the opportunities and manage the challenges. We are fully committed with this initiative. In addition, today the heads of delegation discussed the potential of energy transition, energy access, integration, all of them very important topics for the region. On one hand, non-conventional renewables such as solar and wind have become mainstreaming technologies. The energy transition has several consequences. It opens the opportunity for cleaner electricity generation. It opens the opportunity for electricity generation diversification, especially for small countries that are highly dependent on oil imports. And it opens the opportunity for more sustainable energy sources and less volatile price and tariffs, along with more affordable consumption. Flexibility of integrated systems has become more valuable and necessary. Different kinds of flexibility will become key to allow energy transition. Regulatory frameworks and market design should support such flexibility and should enable more sufficient and sustainable energy markets. For instance, natural gas, we were talking about this energy source all this morning, is a key energy resource bringing more flexibility to the systems. With the vast natural gas reserves in the region, the door is open for the energy transition to reduce oil and coal consumption and reduce carbon emissions. The Inter-American Development Bank will continue to build on the partnership highlighted here at this ministerial meeting to support our member countries across the region along the path towards a more resilient, secure, and sustainable energy future, where our citizens are safe, productive, and happy. I once again would like to thank the government of Jamaica for hosting us here in this beautiful Montego Bay. And once again, I congratulate you, Honorable Minister Fable Williams and your team, alongside the Organization of American States, for organizing what can only be described as an exceptional and a very important event for the region. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Inter-American Development Bank. We'll now call on Mr. Joseph Cox from the Caribbean Community. Mr. Cox is the Assistant Secretary General.
Thank you very much, Minister, Honorable Ministers, heads of delegations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it is our pleasure to be able to share these few remarks in this closing session of this two-day event, as some of the takeaway themes that we can bring, or we have absorbed from this, is really a reinforcement of the need for effective partnership and the development of an energy framework that is truly inclusive. When we look at the transformative nature of the dynamic in which we live, in order to cope with the energy the requirements, and of course the sustainability of the efforts going forward. We have to take into consideration that we must be committed to develop effective financing mechanisms where we can sustain this. And this has been part of the challenge, because one of the concerns that we do have is that as it is now globally, we're looking at investments of roughly $400 billion per year in terms of investments in the sector, which would keep us on track to having global warming limited to about 2 degrees Celsius. But within the Caribbean community, we have adopted the mantra 1.5 to stay alive. Because the plain truth of it is that's where we are at now. So we have to look at what are the effective financing mechanisms. It would seem to me that coming out of this and with this gathering, it seems to me that one of the efforts that we could be looking at would be to develop our private financing decisions around a mechanism whereby all the private sector, private financing facilities are linked to climate change. But that is not sufficient, because at the end of the day, we have to take cognizance of the fact that all countries are not at the similar stages of development, and therefore you would have to put in place mechanisms which treat with efforts to enhance governance and institutions that can manage the overall portfolio risk. We also have to take into consideration the issues, since of course we are looking at investment and financing. We have to look at the issues that would confront our financial sector, such as stranded assets. Because yes, we want to move at a particular pace, but the plain truth of it is that nature abhors a vacuum. And over time, we have been investing in all sorts of facilities, energy facilities, and therefore we have to take into consideration some of the redundancies that would obtain from that. I mean, there are some pleasing developments, yes, whereby over the last 6 years, there's been an 80% reduction in the price of the LEDs. That's an encouraging sign, and we find that this will also help to aid the transformation. But as I close, there are 2 points that I really wanted to make. One is that with the best will in the world, I think nobody in this room is unaware of the fiscal challenges and the debt dynamics that confront the Caribbean community. And therefore, sometimes in order for us to access the requisite financing for some of our endeavors, we have to take into consideration whether or not we have the appropriate fiscal space to accommodate these transactions. And the last word that I leave with you, Minister and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that it always does take finance to transfer good intentions into action. With that, I yield to you. Thank you very much.
Rightly so, Assistant Secretary General, rightly so. Thank you very much. And now we'll call on the World Bank, Mr. Frank Dress-Gross, who's the Regional Director of Infrastructure for Latin America and the Caribbean.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Fayval-Williams, dignitaries and distinguished guests. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me join Ariel, first of all, in congratulating Jamaica and you in particular, Minister, for this very successful organization of the 4th Ministerial Meeting of the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas. I'd also like to thank the co-sponsors of the ministerial meetings and country delegations who participated for the high quality of their inputs. We're honored to have been invited to participate here in this very inspiring event. It's brought together so many different stakeholders and really created, I think, a platform for stimulating discussions on the challenges and the opportunities the energy sector faces. We're a development partner with a real and a sustained interest in the Latin America region. And we, as a development partner, we recognize the value of platforms like ECPA. So we were very delighted when we were asked to organize 5 of the side events that I think many of you attended yesterday morning, either alone or together with partners, including Inter-American Development Bank. So I think that was quite inspiring for us. There was one side event on sustainable energy paths for the Latin America region, so the introduction of renewable energy, the role behavior change plays in unlocking the region's energy efficiency potential. challenges and approaches linked to resilience, the continuing issues of last mile connectivity and energy poverty. Just here in the Caribbean, we should remember that there's still about 8 or 9 million people who lack access to modern electricity. As the representative of Haiti pointed out, 7 of them in Haiti. And then, of course, best practice for mainstreaming gender across all levels of the energy sector, which I think was a very good intervention by Canada just at the close of the last session. So on behalf of the World Bank and the co-organizers, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the panelists that participated in these 5 events and all of you that attended. I thought the discussions were thought-provoking and really highlighted some of the barriers and opportunities we have in the energy sector. So what's very clear to me after these 2 days is the region has set a really ambitious agenda for change in the energy sector. How can we help? And I don't want to be long, but I want to give you a few points. First of all, as an institution, our fundamental goal is the twin goals of eliminating extreme poverty and promoting shared prosperity. Energy sector reform and renewable energies in Latin America fit with that, as well as our commitment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 7 on clean and affordable energy services. We're working with lots of countries in Latin America, but also worldwide, to support their nationally determined commitments under the Paris Climate Change Agreement. We also have sustainable energy programs worldwide that focus on solar PV, offshore and onshore wind, geothermal, sustainable hydropower, biomass, both at the utility and at the distributed generation level. There's one initiative we launched a few years ago, the Solar Risk Mitigation Initiative, that supports countries in developing solar energy programs that will attract private partners, private investment, and to really scale up. I just mentioned that Argentina, for example, has mobilized $4.2 billion of renewable energy investments through its renewables auctions program that we supported with a guarantee facility. Last year, we launched a program to fast-track the adoption of offshore wind that basically allows, together with our private sector arm, IFC, to mobilize private financing and to do good resource mapping. In terms of supply side and demand side energy efficiency measures, we're working on policies as well as investments. We're about to launch a multi-sectoral and multi-country program to finance sustainable cooling and promote access to efficient, clean cooling services in Latin America and worldwide. And our efforts on energy are focused on closing the financing gap and accelerating electrification rates through comprehensive grid and off-grid strategies. So here in Latin America, that means mostly a focus on the countries that still have big access gaps: Haiti, Bolivia, Peru, and worldwide, Ethiopia, Kenya, Myanmar, and Nigeria. Through our Global Lighting Initiative, we've also been working with private sectors and governments to deploy off-grid solutions. So I think as important as all these initiatives are, a clean energy transition depends on resilience, nowhere more so than in the Caribbean, and a conscious effort to have gender equality at all stages of the energy value chain. And so that's why infrastructure resilience as well as gender for everything that we do is a cross-cutting theme. So let me just close by commending the many countries in Latin America and in the Caribbean who are leading by example. I heard a lot of good examples of what you're already doing, and not just promises and good ideas, but really leading by example and showing their commitment to build a cleaner, efficient, and more resilient energy sector. So we're very proud to partner with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dresgross from the World Bank, for those remarks. We'll now recognize His Excellency Mr. Vincencio Cerezo, Secretary General, Central American Integration Systems. He'll come to us by video.
Del Ministerio de Ciencia, Energía y Tecnología de Jamaica, quienes ostentan actualmente la presidencia pro tempore de la Alianza de Energía y Clima de las Américas. Envío un cordial saludo a todos los representantes del sector energético de la región centroamericana y latinoamericana, representantes de las diferentes instituciones técnicas, gobiernos, organismos internacionales y a los invitados especiales de este encuentro. Es un verdadero gusto para mí compartir con ustedes algunas reflexiones sobre el significativo aporte del sector energético.
Those countries of SICA,
más integral de desarrollo.
more than 70% comes from renewable energy, whether it be hydroelectric energy, solar, biothermic, or biomass. And it has become national matrices to replace the fossil fuel, and also the increased use of natural gas in order to come up with a more effective and efficient sustainable mode of development. So this is simply the point of departure, though. We're talking here of being able to guarantee increased efficiency in energy use throughout our countries, and of course we're talking here about flexibility in the contributions. We're talking here also about what is happening at the level of the ministries of energy and the work of SICA, where we are encouraging the use of renewables in our energy sector for lighting throughout the region. This would be very beneficial. It will reduce costs for the supply of energy and will better manage the demand, and as well as reduce carbon emissions and help us to deal with the effects of climate change. In terms of the energy strategies in Central America for 2020 and heading to 2030, we are promoting joint action with more strategic perspective to be able to assist Central America in its efforts. We are trying to close the gaps in access to energy for our populations, or poorer in rural areas also, and we're seeking to use bio energy for transport in order to make energy provision more sustainable. We're talking here of integration that is necessary, the important instrument for development. And now now we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of many countries, the independence of many countries in our region, 50 years of SICA also. We need to be doing much more towards integration. Our energy interconnection in this corridor that we're doing from Guatemala to Panama, it would be significant for our region. We will have access at less cost, and we have managed to achieve significant results in this area in trying so that the provision of the efficient energy efficiency has seen improvements. We are seeing where, for example, in the area of electrification, we are seeking energy efficiency. We are seeking to create stability in our supply. So, energy provision must not only be seen from the perspective of cost. There are several factors which are equally important when we're talking about social development. And SICA, in our secretariat, we are here to serve, and we together will find the types of alliance that will help us to provide greater benefits to our Central American people. I wish you all great success in all your efforts, and I invite you to continue to work together with us to achieve greater development. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you to the Secretary General for that perspective on Central American integration systems. We'll now call on Ms. Kim Osborne, Executive Secretary, Organization of American States, to give her remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I don't want to be the one to keep you from lunch, and so I'll be very brief. I'm pleased to convey to you, Minister Williams, on behalf of Secretary General Almagro and the General Secretariat of the Organization of American States, our sincere appreciation to the government and people of Jamaica for providing us all with a successful and enlightening ministerial. The atmosphere that greeted me when I arrived here yesterday was truly energizing. I found the side events filled to capacity, and while regrettably my schedule only allowed me to attend one of these events, the feedback that I received from the team indicated that the dialogue and exchange and know-how of experiences among public and private sector officials and experts was highly engaging and rich. We came together over these past 2 days with one overarching objective: to explore options and strategies to provide clean and affordable energy products and services to the people of the Americas. The dialogue which supported this objective was truly exemplary. It was rooted in an open and passionate and frank exchange of ideas and perspective. This is not new to us at the OAS. However, the structure of many of our meetings in the OAS does not allow for the type of in-depth interaction with the private sector that takes place in the ECPA ministerial. This is one aspect of the ECPA ministerial that is worthy of replication. Successful outcomes like the ECPA ministerial are a consequence of sound planning. It is instructive that the planning for this 4th ECPA ministerial began almost immediately after the ECPA ministers left Viña del Mar in Chile 2 years ago. In this regard, it behooves me to acknowledge the solid contribution of the ECPA Technical Coordinating Unit, headed by Juan Cruz Monticelli. Juan Cruz, I'd like to ask you to stand and be recognized. And including Charlene Solozano, Rosie Alberto, I don't see Rosie in the room, Ariadna Martin, Ari, and I know I'm missing one person. Who am I missing one person? Bibiana, I can't forget you, I'm sorry. They've put many long months, weeks, and weekends and days providing technical and logistical support to the amazing local planning committee here in Jamaica. And I always say I come to many of these ministerials, and much of what we're able to do is largely due to the amazing team that we have within the Secretariat for Integral Development. I could not ask for a better team for all the work that we do across the Secretariat, and I'm forever grateful to all of you for the success that we're having in SETI. In his remarks at yesterday's opening ceremony, Secretary General Almagro observed that he could not think of a more appropriate venue for this 4th ministerial at this particular point in time. Jamaica's journey is one that all Caribbean countries can join and learn from, in the same way that Jamaica can learn from the experiences of other trailblazers in the hemispheric energy space, such as Brazil, Costa Rica, Chile, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And that's the beauty and strength of multilateral organizations like the OAS. It enables all countries to rise together, each according to their resources. And equally importantly, it allows new players to leapfrog and avoid the pitfalls of others. But these events do not accrue automatically. These benefits do not accrue automatically. Cooperation is about action. Cooperation implies a willingness to cooperate. Cooperation implies trust and respect. In a culture of cooperation, notions of weak and strong disappear and are replaced by the notion of sharing. And this is what the ECPA is all about. In this context, I invite all member states to share the financial cost of support for the work of the ECPA's coordinating unit. Thus far, much of it has been borne by the United States of America, and we are very grateful for the support. And in saying this, I do not discount the significant support that Jamaica, and before it, Chile and Mexico has provided as hosts of the ECPA ministerials. The reality is there's a considerable amount of work to be done to move the resilient energy agenda in the Americas forward. During 2020, we will work closely with the private sector and governments to advance partnerships for sustainable energy. We will continue to facilitate exchanges between governments and the private sector, looking at energy in general and especially in the priorities highlighted by the member states here today and yesterday. Madam Chair, in closing, I extend our heartfelt thanks again to you, Minister Williams, and your team, those present here in the room, and those who are not with us. And I urge you to pass on our gratitude to everyone who was involved in the preparation for this ministerial. Our special thanks to our partners, the Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, the Americas Business Dialogue. We are most grateful to the government of the United States, particularly the U.S. Permanent Mission to the OAS, for their support of the ECPA ministerial and the ECPA process as a whole. Thank you. I thank all of those of you who have journeyed from near and far to help make this a memorable ECPA ministerial, and I would be remiss if I did not take the opportunity to recognize our Director of Sustainable Development, Mr. Cletus Springer, my right hand, who's right here. Cletus, if I could just do a wave to everybody, I'm sure you know Cletus. And with that, I wish everybody a safe journey home, and we look forward to welcoming you to the next ECPA. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. We're now at the closing statement. So I want to say, ministers, heads of delegation, delegates to the 4th ECPA ministerial meeting. It was an honor to preside over the 4th ministerial meeting in Jamaica. On behalf of the government of Jamaica, I thank the Organization of American States for affording Jamaica the opportunity to host energy ministers, development partners, and private sector partners from across the region. I wish to thank my colleague ministers of energy, ministers of other portfolios for your many interventions in the plenary sessions. Your interventions have demonstrated that our governments are still committed to the energy agenda of the region. The sponsorship from development partners, Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, Latin American Energy Organization, OLADE, contributed significantly to the staging of this ministerial meeting, and especially in bringing delegations from several countries to the event. It is your sponsorship that ensured the success of the several themed events that were held on the margins of the ministerial meeting. The support of the private sector is also noted. I wish to thank New Fortress Energy, Eagle LNG Partners, and the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited for their contribution to the success of the event. American Business Dialogue continues to create opportunities for high-level dialogues between government and the private sector in the region. The private sector plenary session brought several issues and considerations to the fore that will contribute to the advancement of the energy agenda. May I be allowed to recognize the support of the Organization of American States, under whose aegis this ministerial meeting was held, for the technical and logistic support provided to the Jamaican Secretariat. The national focal points of the ECPA countries provided technical inputs to frame the dialogue. The Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology, in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, had the responsibility to plan the logistics of the ministerial meeting. We thank the teams for making this a successful ministerial. The theme of the two-day ministerial meeting, Energy Resilience and Investment Opportunities, is of even greater importance as we emerge from this meeting. There is transformation taking place in the regional energy sector that will require much more collaborative approaches across jurisdictions with our development partners, and with the regional private sector. Many small developing states are fiscally stretched and challenged to establish enabling frameworks to develop and transform their national energy sectors. This ministerial offered the opportunity to deepen integration, strengthen networks, scale up actions to achieve energy security, energy resilience, and to accelerate the pace for renewable energy actions. We benefited from recommendations from the dialogue around energy efficiency. We note the estimated savings from energy efficiency being projected at 1/10 of the associated cost. Delegations were reminded of the 5 pillars for successful implementation of energy programs. The side event on sustainable energy paths for Latin American countries posited that investing in resilience could yield US $4 billion in net benefits. Recommendations for adopting sustainable energy pathways included the strengthening of regulatory frameworks that encourage investments in resilient energy systems and the development of financing mechanisms for sustainable energy investments. As far as energy poverty is concerned, discussions surrounded access to energy for people and places that are hard to reach, such as rural communities, marginalized and poor communities, and the innovative solutions that can involve off-grid and microgrids. Baseline surveys are to determine gender gaps in energy, and these were recommended. Robust discussions were pursued in the area of electric mobility. Jamaica presented on the strategic framework developed in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank. The framework provides for a set of measures involving set targets. Under the most aggressive scenario, Jamaica goes electric, it is anticipated that EVs will account for 12% of private fleets and 16% of public fleets. The Barbados experience was useful for other small states that are contemplating electric mobility. Ministers, delegates, we have a considerable way to go to reach the last mile of achieving sustainable goal number 7, access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy. We have a considerable way to go to reach the last mile of building out our energy infrastructure across the region. We have a considerable way to reach the last mile of taking all our people out of poverty by affording them access to clean and safe energy. And yes, we have a considerable way to go to reach the last mile of bridging the gender gap, to ensure that we leave no one behind, not our disabled community, not our poor, not our women, not our men, not our rural dwellers, not our people in urban centers. Ministers, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have a considerable way to go to reach the last mile of reducing CO2 emissions, achieving sustainable energy, promoting the development of markets for goods and services related to clean energy, maximizing comparable advantages in order to build resilient communities, and in securing a region where energy is safe, accessible, and yes, affordable. We end this ministerial meeting of Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas with a great deal of hope and optimism that our collective commitment to our people will drive us to go further, to do more as we accelerate our pace in this last decade to 2030. Ministers, development partners, delegates all, let me once again thank you for the robust discussions, for the way that you remained engaged at the table, for your inspired contributions, and simply for the energy. I believe that our region is in good hands and that we can achieve much, maybe more than any generation prior to ours. This is the moment. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for our region to be great and for all of us to secure our place in history as a generation of leaders who did the impossible, who scaled new heights, and who made our peoples dream and hope again. I thank you, and I wish you a safe journey back home. Let me pause here as well to recognize Ambassador Marks, Ambassador from Jamaica to the U.S., who's here sitting behind me. Thank you so much. We look forward to lunch, and then after lunch, we'll have a tour of one of our LNG facilities here in Montego Bay. Thank you again, thank you all. I'm sorry, just one more action before we go. I'd like to present to the OAS this photograph for the Secretary General. Okay. Okay. And it's the official photograph that was taken.